more on the state of the UK economy, we're going to bring in Remi Piet. He's the senior partner of Embellie Advisory. Good to see you again. This is very fascinating because you're seeing a bit of a lockstep between the US and the UK, both facing very similar problems. I know the solution is also similar, but the results seem to be very different because in the UK, they don't really have a handle on inflation yet. Are they there?
No, you're absolutely right. There are similarities between the two cases, but in the case of the UK, probably the situation is actually even dire. You're looking at inflation above 11%, so therefore much higher than what you had in the US. And unfortunately, also the state of the economy is very close to recession, if not already in recession as of today. The answer to it is, trying to find, ways for rebooting the economy. The Bank of England is likely to increase for the 9th time in a row its interest rate, and the real ones suffering from all this situation are the everyday workers that unfortunately are seeing their real wages decrease in comparison with inflation. You're seeing potential increase of wages that are nowhere near 5% in different professions in front of 11% inflation, and that has led to a very strong discontentment in the streets and movements of general strikes in different sectors.
Right. And speaking of strikes, one of the trends we saw in 2022, and for our international audiences that are watching, they may ask, well, why do we care about inflation? It's many of the workers that are unfairly impacted by it because their expenses are going up, but their wages are not, and therefore their cost of living, in theory, goes down. And that's why you're seeing more and more of these strikes. And I have to believe that in 2023, we are going to see more of this discontent from not just, blue-collar workers, but also white-collar workers and really workers in all facts of life in the UK. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I mean, you're not. You explain, very correctly, and especially the impact that it has on blue-collar workers. They are the ones that are most impacted by this. And you're looking in a country like the United Kingdom, which doesn't have a tradition of strikes and discontentment from workers. You're looking at more than 1 million people calling for strikes for the next 3 months, and that actually is present in a series of different sectors, from transportation to Royal Mail, even the NHS with a series of calls for strikes from nurses. This has a very strong impact both on the welfare of people and also in terms of the capacity for people traveling for the holiday seasons, or being able to send some gift, for example, for the holiday season. Is going to be very much impacted by this.
How has it impacted the economy, though? Like, I get it, things have gone up in price and things are a little jittery, and you say that we're likely to see recession, if not we're already in recession. Is this something that's going to take time to work itself out in the first couple of quarters in 2023?
Well, it will impact the economy already in a very short term. In fact, that because people will not be able to go to work in many instances. I mean, obviously during COVID, there's been a series of development of remote working habits, but for many workers, they still have to use the subway and other trains. And right now, you're looking at a series of different 48-hour strikes for the end of the year, and likely to repeat in the near future, because the government led by Rishi Sunak is actually not lending any kind of ears and dialogue with the different workers' union, and so you're having a situation which is becoming worse by the day.
There was some controversy about taxes, and some have argued that they had planned to cut taxes, but then people said that would be inflationary. So that plan was scrapped in the UK, and I haven't heard anything since as to what the plan is for 2023. But what should the fiscal response be by the UK leadership in terms of fiscal policy, specifically on taxes on individuals and on corporations?
Well, you had different answers from the Tory government, and remember that Liz Truss, who stayed only 45 days in power, had a huge tax bill that would actually lower taxes on the most wealthy, trying to just kind of rebump the economy, but has been completely rejected both by markets and the Bank of England because of the impact it would have on inflation. And Rishi Sunak is having a very strong stance against both the strike movements and trying not to decrease taxes, because his claim, and he has a point on this, is that any kind of move to increase salaries or to actually lower taxes would actually have a further impact on inflation. His main focus is in reducing this inflation of 11%, which is higher than any other countries in the region.
Right, and I think the other thing that's very different about the United Kingdom is the proximity to Europe, which is also the proximity to the conflict in Ukraine, and that's obviously had a very disruptive impact on supply chains across Europe. That is not likely to go away anytime soon. You and I know it. That said, what more can the British leadership do to mitigate this risk?
I mean, you're making a strong point about the cost of energy, and that has been one of the main reasons for inflationary pressure in the UK. Now, good thing is the last few months actually have not been the ones of a very cold winter, and therefore the consumption of energy has actually decreased. The issue that you have here in terms of the UK also is a series of negative impacts of the Brexit, and you're seeing the capacity to export goods to the European market has been quite reduced, and that actually also has an impact on the GDP. Now, the only answer for Rishi Sunak is to maybe, on perception from the Tories, is to stand strong in front of strikes, hoping that the strike movements will decrease, hoping that this will not have a strong impact on the economy, because while you're looking at strike impacts on capacity of people to work, together we also increase of interest rate from the Bank of England, that would strongly impact the capacity for people to borrow, to work, to invest in the economy. And hopefully Rishi Sunak will be able to limit those strike movements, or at least find some kind of a deal with the workers' union, because right now suggestions of 5% increase of salary, this is very far away from the 11% on inflation. So then there has to be a middle ground in between.
Right. I think all of us are hopeful that the inflation can be put under control, but thus far the data shows that we are still far from a realistic solution. Remi, great to see you and happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you.